Good morning, everyone, and welcome to American Scouser's Morning Coffee or Tea with AmericanScouser.com. I have the loving it being green thing going over here, and with us, as always, our clear colored drink
Yeah.
brands. Trevor, what we got going this morning, Trevor?
One
What
day
happened
I'm
to
gonna
the
be
cans
like,
in the background, man?
yeah.
I just noticed this. Did you drink
What's
all the
up?
cans in the back? Didn't you used to have like cans in the back on the shelf?
Oh yeah, I had a virtual job interview, and I figured that would be bad form to have a bunch of beer cans sitting up there, so I moved them. And I just haven't put them back yet.
Oh, that's funny. Just bragging about it to the American Scouser fans, but removing it from the job interview. Alan is with us as always.
I love y'all, but yeah, I need to get money.
Yeah, during the American Scouser broadcast, it's almost like reach over and grab a can opener and keep going.
They're decorative anyway, so there was nothing.
Okay, we will finish off our group predictions because I mean this morning's headlines, as I look through, is a lot of pick a guy from a national team. Will he do it? He said, "I hope you didn't wear the cap during the interview." Uh, but we're both. Hey,
No,
I
no,
can't
no,
rip on
no.
caps because I'm on cap
I had
everything.
yeah,
It
I had
honestly started
a
not due to
nice
the hair
sweater
loss.
on.
But it honestly started initially because I didn't want to waste time fix my hair and crap like that. So I started throwing the hat on like right before we went on air. And afterwards I was like, you know what? This is a lot fucking easier. All I have to do is find a hat, which there's like they're all over the place. So you just
Oh
grab
yeah,
one and hop on. Um so, like I say, most of the headlines this morning are about the World Cup in terms of pick a player, tell their story, how will it impact, and rinse and repeat. Like, pick a guy from Japan, pick a guy from Portugal. Speaking of Portugal, you can only pick one guy from Portugal. It's your
yeah.
buddy. So, like, the interview is out. There's a lot of stuff. And honestly, I have not watched it yet. I did not want to dedicate 45 minutes of my day to Cristiano. But during the day today, as I work, it'll be on in the background him making his claims. But one thing he said, this is what I wanted to ask you about. I mean, he talked about, I've seen headlines about him saying City deal was closed. City says no. Pep says maybe. So, like a bunch of stuff going on with that. Him talking about Glazers, him talking about the team. Him talking about the club, how they've fallen behind, and United is not what it used to be. Like it's not like the good old days and stuff. So speaking of, it's not like the good old days and stuff. And he says this. It's okay, and this is what I want to ask you about because I think out of the things he said and I was reading, I'm like, God, that's like a talking point because I wonder. So he says young players have it easy and lack hunger, and he's saying this not only. I mean, obviously, you would think he is mainly saying it about the guys in United, but he might be kind of like referring to a lot of like different young players that he comes across, maybe with Portugal or when he was in Juventus, blah blah blah. But he's basically saying that the young players don't have the drive that they need to have and stuff like that to succeed. My question to you is this kind of like MJ saying the reason he never coaches is nobody is going to have his drive. So it's very frustrating to work with people, manage people that don't just have the same enthusiasm and drive that you bring to the table? Or is it just like an old guy yelling at clouds? Or both?
No, I think it's more towards that the Michael Jordan quote that you had, because it's something where not only is Cristiano Ronaldo very, very talented, but he is a very, very driven person, and he takes what he does seriously, and that's in all facets of it, from the nutrition to the training to
Yeah.
the off the field stuff, building himself as a brand and all these things that he thinks that everybody should do. And it goes like, no, because not everybody is as talented as you. Some people have other priorities. Yes, you may have a family and all that, but there are people that want to spend more time with their family when the off season. They're not running and doing all that stuff. They kind of take their own time for themselves, and that it's one of those things where you have to have that balance and just do what's best for you as a professional athlete. And not everybody is going to be that professional psychopath that he is. And
I think that's the thing. He is more talking about Sparky is on you. Sparky is like you. He has had enough of CR's crap. I think that's
I'm
why,
with you,
of all the
Sparky.
things he
I'm
said,
with you.
I thought that was the most interesting one because guys like him, and you can't name a lot of these guys, right? Who you watch day in and day out. I think, for example, Mo comes across to me like that, where he is. I mean, you look at Mo's body and how he's transformed himself over the years, and that takes a lot of dedication, a lot of work. That's just not like hitting the weight
Yeah.
room during
Yeah.
practice or anything like that. I mean, that's watching what you eat and all that kind of stuff. You can kind of tell there are certain individuals at the top of their game, and it's not because sometimes guys have talent and skill, but they don't make the most of it, or you can see that they are not as high as they should be because maybe they don't have this dedication. So, and I can understand why somebody like him would be frustrated seeing, I don't know, like a young kid, and you're like, dude, you could be so freaking good, but will you stop freaking partying and do this? But not everybody, like you're saying, it is almost a little psychopath where you gotta almost say, you know what, the next 10, 15 years of my life, everything else can go to hell. It's just going to be soccer and my body and my performance. And that's really hard to do because you are kind of giving up your youth.
Yeah, and that's not something that I feel is fair to ask from everybody. If he's going to make those kind of assertions about guys who are supposed to be those next guys, like the if he's saying that like directly at like Neymar and Mbappe, going, "Hey, you guys are supposed to replace Messi and I as the next generation's quote unquote goats, and you're just fucking about whenever you want," it, and he's having that as a, like a targeted criticism. But on the in the same vein of the argument is there's a lot of people that are not nearly as skilled or talented whose work ethic and drive pull them up a couple levels. So what do you say then? Or like, oh well that doesn't count because he stinks, but he works really hard. And he just doesn't have the same energy. So it comes off as that, yeah, the old man going, oh, the kids these days don't know what they have. And just, yeah, like I said, he's a professional psychopath where he thinks everybody should be doing the billion things that he does, but they don't have either the talent, the resources, or the desire to do that.
But I mean, that's the thing, like Sparky says, it's the same at every level. I see high school kids with so much talent, but no drive. And yeah, been there. I mean, like I say, with, like Jasmine and Layla both playing, you get to see kind of both where, especially at that age, some kids maybe they really are not that good, but their parents are nuts. I think they are. And then you do have some kids that are like really, 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 really good. And yeah, they just don't have the drive, or this is not really their thing. They just happen to be good. They don't
Yeah.
have as much. I mean, sometimes
They
you
have
can be really
natural
good at
ability.
something that, you really don't have a passion for. It doesn't mean you automatically are going to enjoy what you're doing just because you're going, you are good at it. But I feel like, see, that's the thing though. When we're talking high school kids, I feel like that's a different story. Now we're talking professionals. This is your career now. You chose this path for your career. Of course, having said that, I guess devil's advocate, like Sparky's saying, you see it at every level, not only in soccer, you see it in the business world too. I mean, I work with people who, especially as I got older and, like I've supervised people where you have somebody that can be like, dude, you could be so freaking good if you like just put a bit more into it kind of thing. But either that wasn't their passion or sometimes, yeah, they did eventually put their best and they just needed somebody to say, you are good and then push it. But then afterwards, you got to have your drive to keep, as they moved on with their careers, to keep moving up. You got to have a drive. And I don't know if it's more, this is like an old guy saying, it's not like how it used to be, when we were kids kind of a thing. Or at the same time, I think, like you say, he's so much of an extreme in terms of, I mean, I don't know, like if we probably sat over here, did an episode on this, we could probably come up with not more than 10, 15 people that we feel are like, they have nothing else in their life. This is their thing, if that, right?
Yeah.
And so he is so much out there in terms of being, like you're saying. I mean, that's a good analogy. I think like a professional psychopath. That it's kind of hard for him to compare himself to it, and that's why the moment I read that, I thought about like that whole MJ line that where he's like, "That's why I never went into coaching," because, and I can understand that, and I almost like respect that because you're saving yourself the frustration by like doing it. A couple of headlines: Senator Roberts dressing room with teammates annoyed by his derogatory body language with his family's demanding offers. This is what's going to happen for the next 2 months over here. And really, Pochettino wants to. I don't know when he says he is open. Like, I think he just means he's available
He's
for.
been
I mean,
open
he
for
is
like
open to
every
succeeding.
single decent job in the past like 6 months. Like he was open to go to Aston Villa. So yeah, if the England job comes up, I think he'll throw his name in the hat.
Yeah, I mean, he is basically I mean, here's another thing. Like, if you're, I don't know, like if you don't have any plans for dinner and somebody is like, burgers or chicken, I'm open to both. Doesn't matter. It's just like,
Yeah.
we'll talk about it as we come closer when the food is actually available. I'll pick. But
Yeah.
Spiker says game of football has changed and will continue to evolve, and I think that is part of it as well. More and more money is getting into it, and perhaps it's easier. I know that's fair to say to the kids, but the money is so much more that's it's almost easier. You don't have to be a Ronaldo to be a brand or get the money, get the
Yeah.
ads and stuff like that. I mean, look at over here now, like college kids, all you got to do is, you don't even have to prove that very long. You only have to be like, say commit to a school now to basically bank. That's it. You're done. Like high school, and you're pretty much freaking done. And I think maybe that's part of it. The game of football changing in terms of money being more available, and you don't have to be at the peak to be that guy. You can be somewhere in the middle, still bank, and still play, and still have a life. So why, give up the life parts while you're already making a comfortable living and actually like a good living, have sponsorships and stuff like that. So that could be part of it too. This is actually a good topic for maybe perhaps like one of our podcasts. Still got to ask the boys about this. I'm sure Bickler will be yelling at the clouds, at the kids and stuff anyway, but let's go with that. Let's continue our previews over here. So we are up to Group F, 3 to go, and then tomorrow we will have Kendrick joining us, and then we will do like full-blown predictions and surprises and stuff like that. Let's start with Group F: Belgium, Canada, Morocco, and Croatia. What you got?
Yeah, and I think this is another one of those. Actually, I'm gonna feel like dismissive at this point, but it's not. This is a group where the I've seen plenty of people have like different top twos, but Belgium's always at the top. I've seen people make arguments for Canada and Morocco and Croatia, but it's always Belgium at the top, and that's where I have it. But then from there, I'm basically rolling dice because each team has their warts, but every team has also legitimate strengths that could really just, and some of them they maybe be even able to take points off Belgium in this group. So this is one of the more interesting ones for me.
I mean, here's the question: is how good is Canada? You're probably a lot more familiar with Canada than probably I am, because I don't watch a lot of like the elimination games and stuff like that over here. So like, where are you at? I mean, how good are they? Are they that good, or are they there because they're not really competing against like very top teams to qualify for the World Cup? No offense to CONCACAF.
No, but this is kind of whereas like Belgium's golden generation is kind of fading out. This is kind of Canada's coming in.
Oh,
They have a lot of guys who are uh, play different positions for their club teams than they're going to be asked for Canada. Like Alfonso Davies is was in like the World 11 as a left wing back. He's going to play wing for Canada more than likely. And they have a bunch of guys that just score goals at the club level. They have pretty good defense. My thing that's going to just be the big part of it is they have a kind of aging midfield. Like their captain's almost 40, and that's something where Belgium, I think, would just rip them apart. But Croatia also has a very aging
Yes,
midfield
they
as
do.
well. So you could kind of just have those clash of walkers in the middle and just kind of see how that works. Whereas, and then you got Morocco, who have arguably probably the second best playmaker in terms of age, and if Graham Potter ever decided to let him free in Ziyech, they have a lot of guys that can just really cut a team up, but their defense kind of stinks. So there's so many things that could happen with this group, but I'm gonna agree with Sparky that came up that it's gonna probably be Belgium and Croatia. I'd like to see Canada or Morocco get through just for a little bit of variety, but I think it's just
And
gonna be
that's the thing,
plain
right? I
G at the
mean,
end of it.
we're going with, what's most likely, but you got to figure there's going to be some freaking surprises along the way over here. There
Yeah,
always is. And I feel like that's why like this morning's groups have probably the best potential to bring out one of these like
100%.
teams that will go into a lot further than maybe like others think. Um, and yeah, this is a tricky group. I don't know as much, like I say, about Canada. And here's the thing, like at this years ago, you could look at a World Cup. Alan says Canada should stick to rugby. You can look at a World Cup, but you could say, oh, they got a lot of guys playing throughout Europe on top teams and stuff. And nowadays, it's goes as the game gets more and more international. I think you can say that for a lot of teams now. So that doesn't really mean anything. Heck, Turkey is like that too. But sometimes it's putting those guys together is trickier than before. I think in the past, when you had maybe one or two guys play at like top level in the Premier League, you could be like, okay, you guys lead, right? Like you guys lead, show everybody else who's playing in the peasant league back home, how it's done. And now I think there was a lot of like ego battles and stuff like that. I just know from like the Turkish national team. Now it's more like a bunch of egos. So it almost gets harder because they're like, oh, you play for Inter Milan? Well, I play in the Premier League though and stuff. So it's just like, you can kind of see those clashes. It's managing that has become trickier to be able to put everybody together under one cause, regardless of where you're coming from, like you're saying, what you normally play, how you
Yeah.
normally play, and all that kind of stuff. So before we go to the next group over here, let's bring our car friend, Alex. Alex, what's happening, man? On the move as always, I see.
Yeah, no, definitely in the morning. You guys were talking. I saw you guys were talking about Canada. I guess my one point about Canada, it would have been interesting to see Canada if it was a summer World Cup, because I think that's when all the players were on form. But recently, I haven't heard a lot from Canada, so I don't know how they're gonna play in the World Cup. Um, especially Jonathan. What's his name that plays for Lille?
Jonathan David.
Yeah, I haven't heard a whole lot from him since really since the end of last season. So I don't know if he's on form, if he's playing well. I don't know what his goal ratio is. So
See, I
I
feel
have
like
no idea.
sometimes the club form does not always translate to the international form either. And I think that's why it's kind of hard to be a manager for an international team because you can't really judge it off of that. Because sometimes, I don't know, you look at us, for example, as a team, early part of the year, especially. I mean, who was playing good? But it can't necessarily be because everybody was bad. When people around you are out of form and not performing, it obviously affects
Yeah.
what you're
There's
doing
a
as
trickle
well.
down.
So sometimes it's not like a fair comparison to say, oh, he's not producing right now, so he's not. Because I think sometimes these guys use the international team for a fresh of, like a breath of fresh air kind of a deal, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to, continuing what they're doing. But I agree. I will probably go with Belgium and Croatia as well. Even though, like I say, this group and the next two, I think are the ones that will produce one, if not two, surprises along the way. So let's go to Group
Mm-hmm.
G. Brazil, Serbia, Switzerland, and Cameroon. So this is a hot mess, especially on paper for the second spot. Alex, we'll start with you. Who do you have going out of this group as the second
I
team?
I think the surprise is gonna. I don't even know if it's really a surprise at this point, but I think it's gonna be Serbia. Um, with the players they have, especially with Mitrovic and that guy that plays for Juve. I mean, they're going to be a hot team coming out of Group G, and a lot of people are claiming them as their underdogs. I think, to me, I think the underdog, who I think that can go a long way, is Senegal. But and going back to it, but I think Serbia, they're definitely a dark horse going into this group. But it's a rough group. That's a lot of good teams in there, especially even Cameroon. Cameroon's got some solid players on their in their squad, so you can really see anybody coming out. You probably expect Brazil to win the group, but you just never know with a group like that.
Trevor, who do you have coming out of this Group G?
Yeah, it's one of those things with Switzerland. They're always super high ranked, and you never understand why. It's FIFA's headquarters, so maybe there's just some bias on their front. Or like,
It's like Belgium light.
how is Switzerland number 7? Like in the last World Cup, how are they a pot 1 team? I haven't seen Switzerland beat anybody in 8 years. How the fuck are they here? Regardless, though, I agree with Alex on Serbia. They have midfielders who are playing really well right now. They have Mitrovic and Vlahovic, guys that are scoring goals in the league and doing it with regularity. And they have experience in defense of guys that will just really. It's Brazil Serbia is going to be a fun game, but it's going to be frustrating for fans like us watching Neymar get shouldered off the ball and doing 7 barrel rolls into touch. That's not going to be ideal. But yeah, I think it's going to be Brazil and Serbia. And I truly think Cameroon is a team that is going to finish 3rd. I think the Swiss are going to come in last.
Really? You guys are really high on Serbia, man. Sparky and Alan are going with Brazil and Switzerland, and I am going with Switzerland as well. I don't give as much chance to Cameroon. They have they have a few players that are good, but I just feel like, when you compare talent to even to Switzerland, and I know Serbia has a lot of key players, but it's just a matter of like what the other role players will do. I would think Brazil is going to win this group. There is going to be a lot of what you were saying, Trevor, in every game. I think Neymar. We're going to be a lot of Neymar rolling. My hope is that he gets injured in the first game, so I can start rooting for Brazil. But so that's the hope. Hopefully, one of these, as he rolls, he runs into something and hurts himself is the goal. But I am going with Switzerland in this one. I really think they have more players that have more experience in the world, in a national scene, that I think that will get him across and make some key moves. So I'm gonna.
I'll give Switzerland this. I hope the kid Okafor gets some playing time, because that's somebody that we've been linked with, and I don't get to see many Red Bull Salzburg games, so hopefully get to get a little bit.
Shaq is there, right?
Yeah.
There's like a lot of good names.
There's lots of guys that people know that are playing on the Swiss team. I just think they're just I've never understood the draw with Switzerland. They're a bunch of guys that are good players, but none are great. There's a bunch of guys that play well for their clubs and then stink out the joint for Switzerland. They never really put it together for me. And all right, I hope for their sake they prove me wrong this tournament, but I think they're coming in last in this group.
Yeah, I'm having him as second. I'm going Brazil, Switzerland, Serbia, Cameroon in this group. Group H: Portugal, Ghana, Nunes and the boys, and Korea Republic. South Korea in the old days. What do you have here, Trevor? Let's start with you on this one. Your favorites, Cristiano Ronaldo, will be there. So
yeah, and it's one of those things where you kind of you're not sure of what you're going to get out of a team like Ghana, because they're always that kind of just disruptor from Africa in these tournaments. Even if they don't win, they usually take a piece of you with them. when they go home, and that's something with Darwin and Suarez and Uruguay. That's just a combustible element. I think that game is going to be very chippy, and for fans of shithousery, Ghana Uruguay is the one that I should go check the schedule just to make sure that's not one of the 5 o'clock games, so people can go look at it. Getting a Sun back for the tournament is going to be huge for South Korea. I really think they're up against it. Otherwise, I really don't think they have enough just collectively to get through. I'm going to just put Uruguay on top because we've given Cristiano Ronaldo enough plaudits on this show during my tenure here. So I'm going to just take him down a peg and put him in second place.
What do you have? I feel like this is going to be a fun group to watch in terms of games. I mean, I'll get to watch. We'll probably get to watch all of them anyway. But I feel like this is one I'm going to be looking forward to. I want to see how Nunez is going to perform throughout the World Cup for one. But what do you have in this group, Alex? Who's coming out of this one?
You know what? I'm just going to say screw it. I'm going to go with a crazy prediction. I say Uruguay and South Korea.
That is crazy.
I'm just gonna go like South Korea is just gonna pull something out. I just feel like for whatever reason at all the teams it's just gonna be crazy. I feel like I mean you want to pick Portugal, but Portugal is just continuing. Like I know we say all this stuff about Belgium kind of falling short of what they should be doing, but Portugal has really been falling short.
They won the Euros.
Really in the Euros and last World Cup and the World Cup before that, USA beat them out, and USA should not be beating out Portugal for the round of 16. So I mean, I don't have like a lot of faith that Portugal is actually going to get out of this group. I feel like they're gonna fall on their face again. So that's why I'm kind of going with Korea. I mean, I could have picked Ghana too, but I feel like Portugal is going to miss out on the knockout round.
Really? How about you there, Trevor? What do you have?
Yeah, if Portugal pulled a 2010 France, that would be amazing. I think
Man, the Portugal hate is out there.
Oh no, I don't think it's going to happen. I think just there's enough there, and I just looked it up. Uruguay Ghana is they're 10 o'clock Eastern time on the final day of the group. So that's going to be your final taste of this group is going to be a fun one. I'm going, yeah, like I said, out of pure spite, I'm putting Uruguay first and Portugal second. But I don't think any of these teams in this group are going to go pointless. I think somebody's going to get a win against somebody they're not supposed to. Either Ghana is going to beat one of the two teams I have coming through, or South Korea is going to take points off of either one, and it's going to probably come down to goals scored and conceded at some point.
Man, you guys are big on. I don't know. I'm going with Portugal. Just way too much freaking talent on that team. I'm going with Portugal and Uruguay, and I think they have a lot of firepower and experience internationally. I think a lot of the players do, at least. I actually have Ghana as third and Korea as fourth in this group. I think it's going to be one of those deals for Korea where everybody is going to be like, where is Son now? And teams like that rely too much on a single person usually in most cases flop at these international tournaments because I just don't think there's enough around him to like. There are some teams where you have a guy, right, and he gets a lot of attention, but you have other people around him that can kind of take advantage of that attention that guy receives. I just don't think Korea has that. So I'm going with Uruguay as second, Ghana as third in this group because I feel like Ghana will actually get points and beat out Korea as well. But you might be right with that one, Trevor, with that last game putting the seconds in the group on the line there, especially if Portugal kind of like cruises through and like, beats beats both of them or something like that if they're at equal points, which I hope they are, so that we get to watch a good game. But that's the only thing I don't like about group stages. There's a lot of math and people playing for draws and stuff like that happening. So usually this is not the most fun round overall, but this is an interesting group. This will be a fun group to watch. A lot of like good teams that play pretty open as well, and I think that's what I like about this group the most. But we'll give our full-blown further predictions tomorrow. Kendrick will be with us. But Alex, before we go, let's get we did it with Rami yesterday, so let's get your final prediction, like who's going to be in the final, and give us your winner prediction for the World Cup.
I think it's going to be Brazil. I'm going to say, I keep hearing this a lot, but I honestly think it's going to be a South American final. I think it's going to be Brazil versus Argentina.
And who wins?
Brazil. I think that's what
Neymar be alive at the time. That's
yeah. But the way the South American teams are, I mean, even Ecuador. I mean, Ecuador is not, the best team from South America, but I still think Ecuador can do something in the tournament. So it's going to be interesting. I think that's going to be my final is Brazil versus Argentina.
Okay. I think we're gonna have all kinds of. Brazil seems to be a common theme so far, but I think we're gonna have a lot of common ones. And I think the fact that Brazil is a common one, I feel like might be the one to flop, because usually the main favorites always flops along the way somewhere. But Alex, thanks for joining us. Tomorrow, Trevor and I will be back. No podcast tonight, but Trevor and I will be back tomorrow to give our World Cup predictions along with Kendrick. Take your finals and winner predictions as well. And then we'll be all ready for this thing come Sunday. Good times are ahead of us. Take care, everybody. See you guys tomorrow.